Tony, tell me what you did before Masters.
Before Masters, I had started my own theater company in 1989. Well, that's when we formulated, got started. Directly in direct response to the fact that I couldn't get cast anywhere in town. I mean, nobody would cast me. I'd go to audition after audition, and nobody would cast me. And I figured, well, okay. So I quit doing theater for a long time, and then I went down to Pueblo, where did a summer theater down there 2 summers in a row, where they basically did like 5 shows in a 10-week span. It was like a workshop through the college. And I went to see their productions, and I got the bug again. And so I decided, God, what can I do to get back into theater in Colorado Springs? At around that time, Star Bar Players was searching for directors for Steel Magnolias. And I put in a proposal for Steel Magnolias with my set designer. Dennis had designed a set. He built a model, 2-scale model of the Lon Chaney Theater with everything, everything was good to go. And then they wanted reviews of shows that I'd done. Well, the only thing I'd done was in Pueblo. So they didn't hire me for the job. And I finally got frustrated, and we were sitting around drinking one night, my friends Dennis and Jeff. Jeff says, why don't you just start your own theater company? Because if you're going to have to prove to these people you can do something, pick a production that you know you'd be really good at, produce it yourself, do it, and then when they see how good you are, you'll be able to get cast again. So, well, that's a great idea. So we went to Joe Brady at the Hide and Seek, and he had the downstairs bar that they weren't really using. It was like a cowboy bar on weekends. So I was like, oh, okay. So consequently, we had rehearsal space there, and we had a space to work in, and so we decided to do Torch Song Trilogy, mainly because it was written by a drag queen who had wrote this play and became known as an actor. And I thought, well, wow, this is a perfect transition for me, because that's when I wasn't able to do theater. That's what I did. I was like a professional female impersonator for 15 years. Okay. That's what I did. That's how I got my theater Jones, because I could still be on stage, just doing weird stuff, So I decided to do Torch Song Trilogy because it had won all these Tony Awards. It was a great piece. Plus, the way it was written, it could be done just anywhere. So, of course, we adapted the production to the space we were in downstairs. And it was going to be a one-shot deal. We're going to do this show. People are going to be able to see that I could do it. Then when I went to my next audition, I'd have a better chance of getting cast. What we didn't plan on was selling out every show. And people coming, it was amazing because people were coming to see Torch Song Trilogy that were like, and I'm gonna go ahead and name names because there's no way to protect the innocent. But for instance, people that I auditioned for instance, like Eve Tilley, Phil Crone, who is no longer in town, or Murray Ross, or all those people that I had auditioned for, came to see Torch Song. And after it was over, they were coming up to me like, oh my God, you're so good. Where have you been hiding? And I was like, I auditioned for you 2 years ago. Or I auditioned for you last spring. And they didn't remember. So we decided to just keep going. So we did a whole other season. We did Crimes of the Heart was our second show. Jesus Christ Superstar was our next show. And then we did A Company of Wayward Saints. And of course, every show sold out. Every show, even when we went to the Lon Chaney Theater to do Jesus Christ Superstar, it sold out. So the first season was so successful that then it snowballed into, well, now you need a board of directors, and now you need this, and now you need that, and now you need your own space. And I got pushed into my own space, getting my own space, which I probably shouldn't have done because I wasn't ready for that. I mean, I didn't know what all that entailed. So we had a warehouse over off of Las Vegas in Nevada. It was this big, huge, empty warehouse. And little by little, we fixed it up, and we did a whole season there. And Kate Pagel was, at that time, going to school at Pikes Peak Community College along with Marcus Moret. And Kate came to see Torch Song, and she immediately wanted to get involved with what we were doing. So the first thing we did in our space was a production of Bent that she directed for us. And Marcus Moret was designing sets. And that's how I got connected to Michael Stansberry. Although Dennis, who was my original set designer, was one of his students.
Oh, okay.
And Ashley Crockett I'd known for years, and so I asked her to come and do Crimes of the Heart. Well, we needed to make some money fast because they locked the door of the building on us because we hadn't paid the utility bill or something. I don't know what was going on. So they had a big fundraiser, and Michael Stansberry sent us a check to help us get the building back open. And then he asked me if I would be willing to play a role in To Kill a Mockingbird, if I'd play the judge for him. And I said, yeah. So that's how I got introduced to Michael. But at the same time, when I first started Upstart, it was like the first person I got a phone call from was a woman named Sarah Owens, who we all lovingly call Frog. Because I'd put a notice down in Pueblo that we were doing Torch Song Trilogy, and she called me and she said, "You need a stage manager." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "You need me, I'll be up the next day." And lighting designers are coming in talking to me and asking me things, and I was like, what do you want the lights to do? And I was like, well, go on, go off. And I started realizing, if I'm going to talk to these people, I need to know what the hell's going on. And I heard that Michael had a very good technical theater program. So I decided to go to school out there to learn the technical side of theater so that I would have better knowledge and be able to talk to people more intelligently than just saying, I want the lights to go on and off. So I went to school and got a BA from Pikes Peak Community College. And at that point, we started doing shows there.
I'm sorry, a BA or an
AA, associate, yeah.
The
little one. The starter, the baby step one. But yeah, so I got my degree there, and which I had to fight for, but that's another story, because I had to fight the math department on that. But anyway, as at the same time, at that time we'd lost our space, and I still wanted to continue to produce, so Michael let us do shows there at the school using their students and their facilities, their equipment. And in exchange for that, I just said, well, Michael's been really generous, and what could we do for him? And so we established a scholarship fund out there. So every time we did a show, we'd put money in that scholarship fund some way, shape, or form. And then when we came to go to get our nonprofit status, that figured in as a big help because our money was going to something. So that helped when we went to do our nonprofit, got our nonprofit and all that. So that's how I got connected with Michael in a roundabout way.
What did you learn? You took these classes, and because you were, basically deer in headlights. What did you get into the program? What did you get out of the program?
I got almost everything out of the program. I'll be honest with you, I didn't learn much from Michael as far as acting and directing went. I think that's something you have. That's an innate thing you have. You can be taught to act, but if you're really going to be a good actor, it's got to be in you already. And the same as directing. Michael didn't teach me much about directing, except for how to do the paperwork, how to write things down, how to, that kind of thing. What I learned from Michael is the technical side of theater, which has been amazing, a big help. I'm working on a set crew now at the Fine Arts Center, and they're amazed because they tell me to do something and I don't have to ask how to do it. I can do it, whereas everybody else is like, well, how do you screw it together? But that's helped me along the way a lot, but I learned how to put my designs on paper. I learned how to do a costume plot. I learned all that stuff, all the technical side. Plus, Michael taught me how to do a proposal. So the next time I put in a director proposal, I knew what points to hit, what not to hit. And the incredible thing about studying under Michael was, Michael teaches you, under the best circumstances, like, for instance, lighting, it's supposed to come at a 45-degree angle and you're supposed to be this far away from the subject to get the perfect light, optimum lighting, da-da-da. And then he'd say, or if you're in the basement of a bar and your ceiling is 6 feet high, here's what you do. So Michael was very good at adapting that. Plus, anytime I needed to study something or needed something that he didn't have offered that semester or he wasn't going to have, he would give me an independent study in it so that I could learn it on my own. And then the great thing about it was you could show me a manual or a textbook and I can read it. But like, for instance, set design, it's like I can draw the little design on paper and I can do the measurements and it's like, but I need to see it happen from the page to reality in order to really get it. That's just the way my brain works. So for my set design class, I said, well, I'm going to design a set for Sweetbird of Youth and then we'll produce it. And then we'll build the set and then we'll do the show. So not only did I get to design, actually design the thing on paper, but we actually built the thing, which was the best knowledge I could have ever gotten because I I'll read a book till I'm blue in the face, and unless I actually sit down and do it, I'm not going to get it. It's like even with a computer program, it's like I can read the manual on how to do Word Perfect, and it's like, oh my God, what does this mean? Somebody will show me, and I got it. You show me one time, and I can do the whole thing. That's just the way I learn, or that's the way my brain works. So that's what was good about it too.
Great. So how did you what happened, I should say, after you took the knowledge that you got from Michael, plus what you already had, what happened to your upstart conforming ensemble after that point, once you got your AA?
Well, once we got to that point, we had moved into the Smoke Brush. Okay, so now we were doing shows at the Smoke Brush, and they had a state-of-the-art lighting board. They had everything that was state-of-the-art. So then our shows became more polished, if you will. We were able to do more things technically, and so consequently we started being able to do more complicated shows.
Like what?
Like, for instance, quilt, or during the festival. The Gay and Lesbian Theater Festival, which I fashioned sort of after the program I got in Pueblo. We would rehearse 3 different shows, and then we'd put them up one weekend after another, bam, bam, bam. So I could never have done that without learning what I did from Michael, because that meant 3 different sets going up a week. So it's like this show comes down, this show had to go up. So I was able to put that knowledge to use by able to do that kind of thing. Before that, I could never have attempted that, because how in the world am I going to do 3 different shows in 3 different weeks? Or
Right.
taking his stage manager class, for example, I was able to, do the stage management part of it to where I could keep those 3 shows going at the same time and not lose focus on, different things. So that was a big benefit.
Okay. You've got the Gay and Lesbian Theater Festival in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Right.
One of the most conservative towns.
Right, exactly.
What kind of support did you have?
We had amazing support.
Really?
The festival itself was my personal response to Amendment 2. Okay. I'm not an activist, in such as I don't like parades. I don't, but what could I do for Amendment 2? And it's like, my big thing is the whole thing about that whole thing is people are afraid of what they don't know. And when all the images are being shown are, 300-pound drag queens in G-strings on a float, that's scary. That's just scary stuff. I'm sorry. I'm even scared of it, because I've been that 300-pound drag queen on that float, and it's not pretty, but they're afraid of the unknown. And it's like, I decided, well, God, what, theater is such a powerful tool anyway. You've got a bunch of people sitting in the dark sharing a common experience that's not scary. So I figured if we show people that gay people's lives are just the same as everybody else's, then maybe that'll help. So at that point, Amendment 2 was still at the Supreme Court. We didn't know which way it was going to go. But, the businessman in me thought no matter which way it goes, it's going to work for us. Because if they overturn Amendment 2, then okay, it's a big celebration. Let's all go to the Gay and Lesbian Theater Festival. If it's upheld, then it's like another rallying point. It's like, come and see what we're up against. Come and see what our lives are like and see what we have to deal with. So either way, it was going to work out. The way it worked out, however, was that it was overturned. So it became a celebratory thing. Except, and this fact, I just remembered this as I was going through stuff the other day, our festival opened the weekend that Matthew Shepard died. Our first festival.
Wow. Right.
And it didn't really dawn on me until later. It's like, oh my God, that's right. That was at the exact same time.
And Matthew Shepard
he was a college student who was going, I believe, in Wyoming, who was beat to death and left against a fence for 2 or 3 days because he was gay, and then he became like the poster boy of queer bashing, gay violence, da 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 da. That's where Mr. Reverend Phelps made his first appearance with big signs that said, Matthew's rotting in hell, and that whole thing. So that was the same weekend. So that was kind of ironic.
How many festivals did you have altogether?
We had 7.
7 festivals?
7 festivals, yes.
What happened, when was the last one? What year?
The last one was 2 years ago, in 2003.
At the Smoke Brush?
No, that's on the one we did at the Lon Chaney,
Lon Chaney.
because the Smoke Brush had been sold.
Okay.
And that's when actually Mark Hennessy from Star Bar Players said, well, why don't we collaborate on that? And it was kind of weird. They picked a show that wasn't, well, I guess it was okay for the theme. It was called Mass Appeal. It's about two priests, a young seminary student and an older priest. And the seminary student gets kicked out of the seminary because one of his roommates is having a gay relationship and he wouldn't go against it. So that was like how we got the theme in there. But basically, it was a safe show for Star Bar to do. So Star Bar did it, and their first 2 weeks was their production. The last week was the kickoff for our festival. So that's how the collaboration happened,
Okay.
and how we got into their space.
Let's talk about a little bit about what happened, why you went to Star Bar, and what happened to Smoke Brush, and what's happened, because you had a 7-year run. You had a really big height, and then it seems like things have kind of fallen off.
Right.
And so what happened here?
What happened is we lost our space.
Okay.
Okay. Smoke Brush was a really good thing for us, because we were at a position where the only rent she charged us was a percentage of our ticket sales, which is how we could get away with doing the experimental things that we were doing, and the things that, nobody knew that the Gay and Lesbian Theater Festival was going to be that popular. Nobody knew. We thought it was going to be like, 10, maybe 15 people showing up, but that's not what happened. I think what happened is because it was a Gay and Lesbian Theater Festival, it was more than just a theater event. It was like a social event, and it was also a political event. And I think what happened was a lot of the straight community wanted to rally behind it to show that they weren't the bad guys, or so, kind of what Focus on the Family did was catalyze, and I'm not even using that word right, but they made the gay community more of a cohesive unit, and now we all had something in common to do, which was this Amendment 2 thing. So in a way, Focus on the Family made the gay community 10 times stronger than it was in the first place, which really blew up in their face. As far as I'm concerned, that was a stupid thing to do. But so that's why that happened. And because we were at Smoke Brush and we were only paying a percentage of our ticket sales, we could do things like Gingham Dog, which is about interracial marriage. We could do the festival, which was pretty controversial. We could, do those kind of shows that nobody else wanted to do or didn't want to touch because they're not sellable. So we had a good thing going. Once we lost our space, you've got to remember that for 10 years I've been pushing and doing shows in bars, and I just personally got burnt out. I just didn't want to, I was at a point where I was just like, I'm really tired of doing this. I wasn't tired of doing theater, I was just tired of producing it and doing it, having to deal with it all. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to work with other theater companies for a while. So that's basically what I did. Until, recently, my friend Dennis was in town, and who was like one of the original 3 people that started Upstart. He said, well, why aren't you doing anything? And I said, well, I don't have a space. And he said, well, that has never stopped you before. And I thought about that, and that's totally right. That has never stopped me before. So I decided, it's time to start back up again.
Was you talked about how you took a layoff because you've been going hard for 10 years. Was it just because you had been going hard 10 years, or was it because the crowds were starting to go away, or because you lost the space it became a little bit more difficult?
Well, it was a combination of things. Losing the space had a big impact on us, because we did, like I said, we did do the festival in the Lon Chaney Theater, and I didn't like it. I don't, sorry, City Auditorium, but I can't stand that space. I hate it. The curtains are ratty-tatty. It's horrible. I hate it. I do not like that space. I have a negative energy when I go in that space. Okay, I just don't like the space. Plus, it's Star Bar's home. And, I don't want to intrude, I know what it's like when I was at Smoke Brush and people were trying to come in my territory, I didn't like it. So I didn't want to do that. And I was burning out. And it wasn't that the crowds were dwindling at all. The crowds have always been there. It's that other theater companies were doing more interesting things. It's like they stepped up to the plate. Neil Simon hadn't been done in almost 3 years.
Okay.
There had not been one Neil Simon production in 3 years. Okay. The Fine Arts Center is suddenly doing things like Chicago and Cabaret. Okay. TheaterWorks is starting to do things like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Okay? Star Bar is doing things like Mass Appeal. You know, people started stepping up to the plate. People were doing more interesting things that I would want to audition for. You know what? That's one of the other reasons I did Upstart, was because I didn't want to do another Neil Simon comedy, and I certainly didn't want to do another production of Charlie Brown. You know, that's one of the reasons I wanted Upstart, and that's why the actors were coming to Upstart, because they were getting tired of doing those things too. So people started doing more challenging work around town. But it was like, as soon as Upstart went out of the picture, it seems like everybody went back to safe stuff. You know, now you have Star Bar is now doing The Rainmaker, Bell Book and Candle. You know, TheaterWorks is doing Streetcar Named Desire and Treasure Island. And, you know, the Fine Arts Center is doing Anything Goes. Okay. Although they are doing La Cage next year, which is going to be the biggest gamble that they've ever taken.
Okay.
You know, just because of the subject matter. So we'll see how that goes. But that's basically what happened.
Why do you think these companies are going for these more commercially proven shows?
Money. You know, flat bottom line money. It's easier to sell those kind of shows, and it's really weird because everything, you know, I've worked now with every theater company in this city. Okay, and it's always the same thing. It's like, oh God, we don't want to offend those little blue-haired old ladies. Well, think about that. Those little blue-haired old ladies aren't going to be here very much longer. And who are you replacing them with? They're not. You know, although the Fine Arts Center, when they did Cabaret and when they did Chicago, they started. If you went to see those shows, you looked around the audience, and all of a sudden you saw young kids, you saw younger people. You know, and that's the key right there. Is, you know, how are you going to get those young people interested if you're still doing the same old crap? You know, the Fine Arts Center is now also doing something besides musicals, which they had never done. You know, which has been a long time since they've attempted that. But you know, it comes down to money. You know.
Speaking of money, what were your thoughts when Michael sent out that letter last year, last winter, and basically saying, "Look, we're on the ropes.
Right.
We're in trouble here. I need small support." What were your feelings?
I was devastated. I mean, I couldn't believe it, because Michael has one of the strongest programs out there that I know of. You know, and it's like when I was going to school out there, and I don't know if it was just luck or what, but I'm going to school out there, and I qualify for financial aid, and I get to have a work study job, and guess where my work study position is? The theater. So I have access to Michael's computer, I have access to everything, you know, which helped our theater come. The same as at Smokebrush. I had their computer, I had their database, I had their patron base to play with. You know, I had everything at my disposal that helped. I mean, all that stuff helps. But I was devastated because Michael has one of the best programs there is. And one of my jobs out there at one point was, Michael said, I want you to start going to get a program from every theater production that happens in this town and start highlighting the people that studied here. And it's amazing. You go to any show in town and pick out the program, and there's at least 5 or 6 people that Michael has trained or have trained under Michael that are in that show, working on stage or behind the scenes. Whenever, you know, and technicians are in demand anyway. And all of Michael's students have been able to get jobs like that, technically. Now, his actors don't do as well, but actors never do as well. Because there's 50 of them for every lighting designer, you know what I'm saying? But his technical people all do very well. They're getting work, you know. They're going to, you know, Phil's going to Louisville. You know, Marcus Moret is working in New York. You know, Kate is now teaching. You know, he gets his people work because the education they get is so thorough. You know, his students know more than half the people that are union members at the Pikes Peak Center. You know, and that's what, you know, and every theater company in town will be affected by that.
In a negative way.
In a very negative way, because if there are no more technicians, then the Fine Arts Center's new multi-million-dollar lighting system that they put in isn't going to go do jack shit because there's nobody there who knows how to run it. There's nobody there that knows how to use it. There's nobody there that can do it. There's nobody there that can plug in those lights, you know? And that's what's going to be sad, you know? Even TheaterWorks will suffer because, you know, they're going to lose technicians all over the place. They're not going to have a technician base to go for. It's like, you know, where they're going to get the high school kids, and their funding's getting cut too. But there's a lot more things that could be cut, as far as I'm concerned, than the theater department.
Were you aware that the technical theater program is officially gone?
No, I didn't know that. I knew when I was leaving there, it had just gotten started, and as far as I knew, it's the only one. It was the only one of 3 in the country at that level. And you know, I didn't know it had gone away, and I don't know why it went away.
We were talking to Michael, and we had said when we were going, and you were obviously there before us, but we crossed over some.
Mm-hmm.
When, I'll just say we were going there, he was getting a lot of referrals from the high schools.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kids who wanted to be an actor and didn't have a whole lot of money, didn't come from a lot of money. They were sending them, well, go check out this program. And Michael says it's not really the case now. The high schools aren't referring them, whether it's by education, they don't know about it. They got new people in there teaching the programs or whatnot, and they don't know about Michael's program or whatnot. Anyways, my point would be, what, if anything, could be the reason for that, for the referrals being down,
In your opinion,
in your opinion?
based on this town,
Based on this town, the fact that people don't think it's important, or don't think it's, you know, don't think it's going to lead anywhere. You know, I'm sure. You know, who knows with this town. Who knows? But it could be that. It's like, you know, it's like my parents saying, you know, you need something to fall back on. You need something to fall back on. You're not going to make any money doing that. And that's the thing is, it's not that. It's society. It's like you got to make money. And, you know, the starving artist has become like something it's like a relic. You don't hear that anymore. But they don't realize that, you know, it's like, I tell people, when you study theater, it's like you could build a house, you could wire it, and you could fill it with people and know why they act the way they do. Because, you know, when you study theater, you study psychology and all of that stuff. You have to know why people do the things that they do. As an actor, you have to know why your character does what he does. You know, as a technician, you have to know all that stuff. And a theater education, to me, is the most rounded education you can get. But the higher-ups, because the demand is not there, those are the programs they want to cut. Instead, it's like, let's boost the computer, you know, let's boost the computer. And that's sad, but, you know, even theater is becoming more tech, you know, everything's done on computer now too. You know, they can't replace the director yet, but I'm sure that'll happen eventually. But they can get rid of the designer now because they can just do it on the computer. You know, the lighting board is now run by computer. You know, so now, you know, but if they were smart, they'd realize, okay, if that's the case, then maybe we should start offering computer theater classes. You know, that's where it's going. But there's still nothing that can teach you how to mix paint.
Tell me how much of an involvement you think your situation might have had in the school coming up with this. Focus on it, okay? How much was your situation responsible for the school adding math for artists?
Oh, my situation was really hurt. Well, here, I'll tell you my situation. When I went to school at PPCC, I had one goal in mind, and that was to be a better businessman, have a better theater. So I took classes that I knew that I needed, okay? Which I took accounting so that I could keep my books, okay? I took psychology so I could get a better understanding of character work. I took music appreciation because I needed to learn more about music if I was going to be doing musicals. The only thing I didn't take any ballet. I looked really funny in a tutu anyway, but I took the classes I knew that I needed, and I took my requirements, okay? My mistake was I am very bad at math, I'm just bad at it. I've never understood it. So I said, I'll take math as my last semester. And I didn't want to take algebra, so I thought, oh, statistics will be so much easier. Well, I thought I was in a foreign language class. So, of course, I had to drop out. So I was 3 credit hours short of my degree, okay? You needed, 54 hours to graduate from there, and I had 97, okay? But I didn't have my 3 credits of math.
For how long? How many years?
For 3, I think. 3, well, yeah, 3 or 4. And finally I just said, you know what? And I was talking to Michael, and I said, Michael, I just want my degree, because a degree from you, a degree in theater from PCC means something. I mean, it does. People, when they realize, oh, you studied with Michael, they know you're going to be able to build a staircase if they need it. They just know that. Okay? I said, I really want to get my degree. And he goes, well, petition. Petition the president. Well, I sent my letter to Paulson, but she had just stepped down, so I got lost. So finally I wrote a letter. And in my letter I basically said, I'm not your typical student. I'm 47 years old. I've run my own theater company for 10 years, and you're not going to be able to convince me I need algebra when I grow up. If I need algebra when I get a bachelor's degree, then I'll take it then. But for right now, an AA degree in theater from your school means something. An AA degree in math from your school doesn't mean crap. And apparently the president agreed with me, because I finally got my degree. And so now I hear they've added a class called, what is it?
Math for Artists.
Math for Artists, which is a wonderful thing. The only people who need calculus are people that are going to teach calculus, or they're going to be engineers, or they're going to work on the space program. Come on, let's be real. That was the same thing I fought when I was a kid. It's like, you need to learn algebra. It's like, If I know that 1 and 1 is 2 and 2 and 2 is 4, I don't give a crap what A means. Because if I don't know what A and B are, I don't care what they're equal to. It's that simple. It's like, well, you use algebra, you just don't realize it. It's like, well, if I don't realize it, then why do I care? That's where I've always fought that. So that's a good thing. That's brilliant. I wish I'd have thought of that. Math for Artists. Now they could just think of biology for artists. It'd be
PE for artists.
Oh yeah, PE. We won't even go there.
There's like one other thing I wanted to ask.
Let's see. I'm just about 15 minutes. Go down the list. Talk about. We can talk about Michael and his relationship. I don't know if that would.
We're just letting people bring that up.
Yeah. That's all I can think of. But
If we think we need something, we'll just come back in.
Okay. Yeah,
is
sure.
there anything you want to add?
Why don't you just go ahead and say what you're going to Upstart with?
Oh,
The 3 shows that you're doing next
well, I decided to, go back to Upstart's roots and do shows wherever I can do them, which is like back rooms of bars or whatever. And I also thought of my dear friend Ashley Crockett, who, as everybody knows, is battling cancer. And I know that, when you're battling a disease like that, and, some days you're going to be really tired, you're not going to feel like doing anything. But also, for somebody who is an actor of the caliber that Ashley is, or, somebody that's acting is that important to him, not to be able to act would be devastating. So I don't know how Ashley's physical being is, whether she can handle rehearsals 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, or what. So because she's such a dear friend of mine, I want to keep her involved in theater. So I decided, well, I've always wanted to do Driving Miss Daisy. She'd be perfect in it. We have Big John, who'd be perfect for the chauffeur. So what I decided to do is rehearse it with those 2 guys. I played the 3rd character. There's only 3 character shows. It can be done with 2 benches and a whatever. Low-tech show. We can rehearse at Ashley's convenience, at Ashley's speed. When Ashley feels like rehearsing, we can rehearse. When she doesn't, she doesn't. She doesn't have to feel the heaviness of a deadline. We can work at her speed, and when the show's ready, we'll book it. And then I thought, well, God, what do I want to do? Upstart has always tried to do things geared towards them, segments of the population that don't get touched very much. And I thought, well, God, that's a show about 2 people getting old. When I was down in Rocky Ford visiting my cousin, she brought up the fact that she saw this thing on TV that she just loved, where it was just these 2 old people playing cards. And I noticed she was talking about the Gen game. I thought, God, that'd be a great show to do. 2 people. All I need is a lawn table and 2 chairs. And then I thought, okay, so we'll do this whole show geared towards senior citizens. So we're going to do Driving Miss Daisy, the gin game, and then this wonderful piece called the Delaney Sisters Having Their Say, which is about these 2 black women that are they're 104 and 108 years old. And it was based on a book. This woman went in and interviewed these 2 women about their lives to write a story for Life magazine, which she got so much information and fell in love with these 2 women so much she wrote a book about it, which later became adapted to this stage play. So, and that's just a 2-person show too. So that's what we're going to do: a season dedicated to senior citizens, and do it wherever we can. Hopefully, Silver Keys Cafeteria can hold a makeshift car, because that's probably what we'll be doing it. But I'm going to take the gin game on the road, and just so my cousin can see it, I'm going to take it down to Rocky Ford. Do that kind of stuff, And I don't know if I'm going to have auditions anymore. I think I'm just going to pick projects for people that I know that would be good in this project that you don't see on stage all the time, and do that for a while. Just pick projects, pet projects for pet people.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
That's good for today, man.
Okay.
They used to be.
Well, we were all skinnier 5 years ago.
Yeah, really.
I didn't try shooting that hole. Trying to shoot my killer's room in Tony's old office back in their film.
Yeah.
I don't know what we were thinking. It was barely enough for 2 of us in there. Yeah, this'll work. Kinda did. And we cannot see what you're typing, so. Gina told me that Amazon there was looking at doing Zoom Man again.
Yeah.
Are they closer to doing that, or?
I don't know. You never know. You know how she is.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It'll go about a minute. Maybe you could pick up the phone, put it to your ear.
Hello. No.
So I get several phone calls from people offering them chances for movies, and he says no.
Right. Is Angelina going to be them? No, thank you. I don't know.
Yep.
I probably did. That's fine. I get the idea. Yeah.
About 15, 20 seconds.
some good stuff.
Okay, what was one of the aspects that you were talking about when you were saying Upstart going back to its roots this year?
Well, you know, we've always had this reputation of being a guerrilla theater. Well, some of the places we've rehearsed in, for instance, we'll be rehearsing Driving Miss Daisy right here in my very own basement. But as you can see, the space itself is, you know, if we work this way, that's about the space area of acting we'll have anywhere we manage to set up. And the cool thing about it is once you've rehearsed in a tight space, you can always broaden things out. But, you know, we'll be rehearsing here, which we did before. We rehearsed in the basement of the hide and seek. We rehearsed at Nancy's warehouse. We've rehearsed in dressing rooms. And we even rehearsed one entire festival in my living room. All 3 shows were rehearsed in my living room. So that was kind of fun.
What do you think Michael Stansberry would say about that?
I don't know what he'd say about that. He would say, hey, whatever it takes.